Welcome to Tom's Diner, a Cyberpunk TCG podcast. My name's Dodd.
I'm Andy.
We had episode 11 of the official podcast come out the other day, and they revealed a bunch of changes to cards and one new one, plus another new one that was revealed on socials. So we're going to go over those.
I think 20 of 32 revealed cards to that point were changed either very slightly or massively.
And with the word that everything in the Alpha deck except the 3 Arasaka cards that they made promos of in the Alpha kit, so therefore can't be changed, are going to be changed, which is fine. We have slightly different opinions on that, meaning that I'm fine with it.
I have been told that I'm a catastrophist.
He is a catastrophist. After we cover the changes to the new cards, we're going to do our Dexters that we made up, and I'll do my Padre before we go on to the Afterlife. So first thing we're going to talk about is the overall changes they made to just the templating and structure of the game. We've talked in the past about we weren't sure what happens to a Go Solo Legend if it's removed from play or returned to hand or whatever. So it looks like they've added remove from game if it leaves the field as the standard language. So that answers that question. Then we have keyword templating, changing colors around, making things clearer, the pink to make it obvious that there's something on the other side of the table that can be done possibly on your turn, with both blocker and quick having that coloration.
Yeah, which I think is great. That's great for reducing the mental load of being on the other side of a player and just seeing, oh, he's got a yellow on a legend. That means it's a Go Solo. Or he's got a pink, which means there's a potential quick ability.
Well, in the early discussions about this game, even before the Kickstarter launch, they expressed concerns about putting too much rules overhead in keywords, which I get it, but if you just have a handful of keywords, you can take so much text off of cards, and templating is better, and templating is always better than not. I'm really glad they made that change.
Yeah, it just establishes a shorthand for the game that, yes, it does take a little bit to know that this is what blocker means, or this is what Go Solo means, but that's also why when you create a game, you create a couple of simple versions of cards at the beginning that all they do is blocker, so that you can put that in parentheses afterward just as some onboarding for players to know, oh, this means this can block when somebody's trying to attack your gig area.
So we're very on board with templating. So pink keywords for reaction window opportunities, quick and blocker. The quick is the big deal one because it replaces a lot of text that wasn't templated, indicating a reaction option. The ability can also be used during a normal turn. Andy and I differ on our interpretation of whether or not it can be used in the reaction window to your own attack or must be used in your quote-unquote main phase before you declare an attack.
Yeah, and in the developer blog and then in some of the explanation from, I think it was episode 11 of the official podcast that they went over this on, it said quick is a keyword used to describe effects that can be played in both your main phase and in the react step when a rival attacks.
The ambiguity for me is that the attack is now part of the main phase and one of the things you can do, so I don't know if it's still usable as a reaction to your own attack, because I would much rather be able to play Cyberpsychosis after my opponent declares that he's going to block or not.
That's just to be seen. I think we both agree that would be better, like to be able to bait something out. We'll talk about the specifics, but a card like Dum Dum, to be able to try to get a response and see, hey, you're going to use a blocker, you're going to do something else. Oh, you're not? Great. I'll try to boost this to steal an extra gig or something.
As with the change to making the main phase open, allowing us to use reactions to our own things during our own main phase, raises the skill ceiling without raising the complexity for new players. So I'm very much hoping that they'll clarify that that's how it works. And then the last new keyword is adrenaline, which replaces the italics in parentheses that says can attack rival spent units. And the one card that it really matters for is the new version of Riding Nomad, which removed the restriction on just attacking spent units. So it looks like adrenaline is just, you can spend this card on the turn you play it.
To attack. So you can attack rival units or you can attack
the gig area.
Or potentially, I don't know if they defined it more than that, but is it just, can it be spent on its turn or can attack?
Well, the only thing I know for sure is they've defined what we called in Magic Summoning Sickness as the term lag, which is you can't do anything that requires you to spend on the turn you're played. Whether or not adrenaline extends entirely to lag or just to attacking, we don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll find out maybe when they define it, because right now it's not in the glossary.
Sure.
And then the last new thing that I noticed is that they balanced the reduction in the call cost from 2 to 1 by putting spend effects that cost dollars. Obviously, I think that's a good idea. Three of my proposed legends had that ability on before they announced they were going to reduce the cost.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to some specific legends.
Like PANAM.
Yeah. You beat me to cough, PANAM, cough on that one.
All right, so let's talk about the new cards. We'll try not to make this an hour and a half like they were. But,
yeah, and so obviously you'll see as they come up on the screen, we'll have the old card and the new card. So we'll talk about the changes without being too specific and dragging on too long.
Yes, each card should be available on your screen as we talk about it. So we're doing the same order they did on the stream, and then we'll bring in the one from socials last. Street Kid V is fixed. We had a lengthy discussion just last episode on how I just don't like that card as it was originally thinking. I have to give up a legend and let him be defeated. I don't get his eddies and I don't get to keep him in order to trigger his ability. Now he's got higher power, 5/5 versus 4/3, and he doesn't have to be defeated to get his ability.
Exactly. Yeah, he's higher power, has a little bit higher cost, but it's just when you call him instead of I have to spend a legend to try to find a scenario where I want him to be defeated, or you're allowing your opponent to say, fine, attack for 3, I don't care. You're not going to get the brain dance that I know that you're desperately trying to get out of your trash for whatever reason.
As a general matter, I don't like abilities that are heavily contingent on my opponent getting to decide when I get to use them and under what condition. We'll talk about that again when we get to Caliber.
Yep.
Anything else about Street Kid B?
Nope.
All right, Royce is pretty simple. The power and ability stayed the same, and they added the language about if he leaves the field, he's removed from the game. That's it.
Yep.
Dum Dum, I like a lot better than I did. His call ability was scaled back. Instead of getting 4 for defeating a gear, you draw 2, otherwise 1. So whipping on it isn't going to hurt nearly as much. And then the quick ability to spend and tap him to boost a friendly gear +1 for each gear on it. Well, I'm much happier about the idea of putting him in a deck because he won't stop being useful once I get the card draw.
Yeah, you're effectively spending 2 eddies because he's an eddy card as a legend. So you're spending him and another eddy. Again, this depends on whether or not quick can be used in a reaction window on your own attack. But even then, you're able to boost something up to a threshold to make it so it would defeat a rival unit if it attacks, and they know that ahead of time, or you can bait it. Or if you're trying to find a blocker on your opponent's turn, you can boost it to survive and try to kill your opponent's unit. So a lot more utility there than just a YOLO card draw.
River Ward.
Your favorite card and character in the game?
Really does bother me that the limpest dish rag of a character in the game gets a really good ability, and we don't have Regina. But he got a quick ability that allows you to play for free an attachment of 2 cost or less, and it removes the restrictions on the original, making him much more versatile. Before it had to be a friendly, unequipped unit?
Yes, it had to be a friendly, unequipped unit, and it had to be when somebody attacked. So it was effectively the quick keyword. But now you can do it whenever. You can do it in the middle of your main phase as a reaction while your opponent is doing something. We haven't seen a lot of gear that would necessarily make sense with, but it provides an opening.
But it would be very nice if you could also add a piece of gear on your own turn after they do or do not declare blockers.
Yes.
They removed the card draw on call, and then they added this search effect when a friendly equipped unit is defeated. It sounds like you draw 1 and trash 1 the way they talked about it.
Yeah, search the top 2 cards of your deck and trash 1.
The next one is Goro, Vengeful Bodyguard. He's got $1 added to his ability to spend to give a blocker effect, but it no longer requires a value pair to trigger it. He gets you the +1 if you have the value pair. So that is massively better.
Yes.
He's useful as soon as he comes into play, and you don't have to happen to get your value manipulation before he works.
And the card filter ability that they added is great as well.
Yes, it is.
If you have blocker, then you can discard and draw. So if you're just not drawing that one unit that you need, or you're not drawing the program that you need, or whatever it is you're looking for, you can cycle.
Okay, so your favorite card, PANAM. She no longer readies on call.
And this is where we had speculated with the cost reduction from 2 to 1 that there probably wouldn't be as many ready on calls because of the reduction. It would effectively make calling a legend free. If you built all of your legend deck on ready when called, all your legends are free.
So in order to use her off turn, you would have to flip her in a ready state.
Yes.
Lag doesn't apply to anything except when it enters the field, which legends don't. So if you flip her in a ready state, she's useful off turn. They also added a $2 cost to her move gear ability, but removed the when it attacks restriction that was on the original card. And then if you do that, you ready the unit. And finally, at the end of your turn, if 5 or more friendly units and or legends are equipped, ready them, which is astonishingly good. And according to Cree, a lot easier than it sounds like to reach.
Yeah, that's a big top end. It moves her away from what seemed like a Build-A-Royce type Voltron super unit that could just attack and steal 4 or 5 gigs in a turn to more of a go-wide strategy of putting gear on as many units as you can and then having one massive turn that would still end up with stealing 4 or 5 gigs, but would have to be with multiple units instead of just one super unit.
But then none of your equipped guys are amenable to attack. Or if you get like Mandibular Upgrade on a good card, you can attack with it and then it's ready to block.
Right.
Now, when they were talking about El Sombreron, the way that they talked about how ridiculous he can get strongly suggested that the way they interpret Panam's ability to move a card on and then ready it can only be done after an attack is complete, which is not how we read it. When I was playing my Royce against you, I was using her to put a card on him to increase his power by the value of the card itself and his +2 2 and immediately standing him up during the attack because that's how she reads the old version. And then he's ready at the end of that attack to attack again, the way they talked about it. They seem to assume that PANAM only works in between attacks and you can't stand one up in the middle. I don't think that's the way she read.
No,
I don't think that's the way this
when
reads.
a friendly unit attacks, not when a friendly unit has completed an attack would make it seem like you'd have to do it after.
So I don't know why they interpret it that way, because it's very much when it attacks, which is not a after an attack is over.
Well, and this clarifies it again, though, because it's still spend 2 eddies and exhaust. It's not a quick ability, so you can't do it during an attack.
Right. Now it's clear that you have to do it in between.
Yes.
Maybe I just misunderstood and that's what they were talking about. But now, because it is not a quick ability, there's no ambiguity that you can't do it in the middle of an attack. Yeah. You would have to do it after.
Yeah, and I have seen some people be upset that PANAM was now not massively broken, but this was obviously just a necessary change. And me being a catastrophist, I have some concerns about seeing just the sheer number of changes in revealed cards, especially with as close to release as this is. Thinking, oh man, this is a lot of stuff to change. There's a lot of volatility. Stuff could go in any direction. How are they going to balance this or maintain balance when they're changing so many things? But we're seeing changes to specific cards that I think were necessary and were good changes. So that undercuts my own catastrophic tendencies to say, why is all this changing? But at the same time, most of these I think are very good changes, even if it's just clarifying templates and some of them are scale this back in.
And me being more optimistic by nature, I see this and going, well, they're listening to our feedback. They've got a lot of money to spend on playtesting. They're talking about how much internal playtesting they're doing, and we're seeing positive, valuable changes. I mean, there's 1 or 2 cards I think they might have done better, but the next card we're going to talk about is, to me, the single most valuable change they made, even compared to unbreaking PANAM. What they did with we had a long conversation last episode about, I can't figure out how this card's good. And the only way we could figure it out was to have it be that she basically existed to play Soul Killer out of it.
And not even seeing what Soul Killer does and try to generate that. So what's the change?
It no longer requires removing her from the game to play from trash. Instead, you just spend her and pay $1 and the program's cost and bottom deck it after you play it.
Well, there are 2 changes. The first one
is the second one. Also,
but you started with the second one, so I'm going back to the first one.
She also has a spend to reduce the cost of a program for each min gig you have. This is a blue style cost reduction / pseudo ramp, which is nice. So it's much, much easier for me to see this card's good. She gets to use her ability at the cost of the program going to the bottom, and you have to pay for it. She doesn't leave the game, you don't lose her ability, and then she gives you blue style ramp.
Right. She's giving you a cost reduction, but before, the original ability was she would leave the game. She was a go solo, so she went into play. She had to then steal a gig, and she only had 4 strength, so you had to find a way to get something. Then you could remove her from the game and then choose a program in your trash to play it for free. So you had to have played the program already. You had to pay to go solo. Now she is giving you a cost reduction to play a program. That program is then going to go into your discard pile. And the next turn, yes, you're going to have to spend 1 to get it back, so you're not playing it for free, but you got the reduction the previous turn. There's still some wonky math with having to pay for it and pay an extra, but you got a reduction the previous turn that might have let you do something else.
But you're paying $1 to recurs.
Right, and it is a recurring ability.
And it's repeatable.
Because she's not being removed from the game,
and
which is
that
massive
removal from the game after you had to pay all that money to get her into play, plus losing income, just made it impossible for me to accept. I mean, you're probably not going to be using her for income if you could use her for cost reduction, but she's there if you don't have a program to play for that too. So yes, massive improvement. Now a playable card. Now we're going to get to Evelyn Parker, who is completely different from what she was before. So now she says, when a friendly corpo or ganger unit steals 1 or more gigs, ready and eddy, which you know me, I love that, right?
Also, ready 1 eddy is just fun to say.
Yes, ready 1 eddy. And then she has a pay $1 and spend ability to force a rival unit to attack, which is marvelous. That's one of those little subtle things that go into games. I didn't expect it this early in this one, because that's you have to attack with your carry next turn. No card draw for you.
Yeah.
Because I can't get at your 8+ gig.
Yeah, if you have a utility character that's meant to be up over there that's just boosting your characters.
And I've got...
Well, you've got Goro as a legend, and you're going to give something blocker that's going to just decapitate whatever you're forcing to attack. Yeah.
I really like this change, and I'm really happy to see them incorporating more of the tags that we're seeing on cards into the abilities on other cards. I think you're less happy with it.
Just in the thematic change a little bit, but you get it back, I think, with forcing a rival unit to attack. Just, as you played the game, it's getting you into the end of the prologue, basically, in the game. I liked that it was brain dance focused, because that's where you meet her in the game. But it's just, the more that I look at it, it's just a different way of going about it.
Yeah, I think it's still reasonably thematic. And her being tied up with corpos and gangers makes sense, since that's how you meet her. She's giving you a brain dance from a corpo in a gang hangout. So, all right, Jackie, pour one out for me. They fixed the non-bow. That's basically what they did. He now decreases gigs and he draws at minimum.
Well, and he matches the blue color wheel now, which is
Right.
you want lower values and lower street cred, whereas before he was increasing gig value.
Honestly, I think one of the major drivers of these changes are that they brought the new designer in 2-3 months ago, and he's the one who came up with the lodestone keywords for the colors. And the first obvious thing is that Jackie doesn't fit with minimize. So this is the easiest change to make. And they also removed any ambiguity about whether or not you actually have to change the gig's value to draw. You have to. We were interpreting the old version as requiring an actual manipulation. They talked about it like that wasn't the case, and I don't see again how that wording, because it says by 2 flat, and then if it
becomes a min gig, if
well,
it was already a min gig, how is it becoming? But it's fine as long as they clarify it. So
now we know it. You have to make the change, and it's up to 2, whereas before it was you have to change 2, and then it was then if. But again, just like with PANAM, we're interpreting it the opposite of the way they did, and that's fine. We don't need to worry about it anymore. It's now clear. Now El Sombreron, he was a 4/4 who doubled his power when attacking a rival unit. Now he gets the value of a friendly max gig for an entire turn for $2 when he attacks. So thematically, I think this is a bad change. El Sombreron was a guy they sent in to deal with problems. Oh, your Jackie Wells is a serious problem for me. I'm going to send in El Sombreron and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's just a Timmy card.
Yeah, he's just to get as big as possible and look out. Number go up.
Yeah.
How much can I make this number go crazy? This is to me a roll your eyes card. When I see an opponent play this, and I'm like, okay, great. That's sure.
Yeah, I liked him better as a problem solver than I do as a Timmy card. But it's not like I'm not going to play him in a red deck because he's well costed and he's got a good power.
Sure.
But I liked him better before. I'm not going to make a decision yet until I see all the changes about what might replace her, but I no longer think Meredith Stout is the worst card in the game. She was a 4/3 and had a crappy ability that lets you retrieve a card from trash if a rival decreased a gig.
If your rival does this one specific thing, then you may.
She's basically worthless in any deck that's not doing that. Now she's a 4/5 with blocker, and she gets +2 when fighting a legend, which is pretty cool. I don't know how thematic that is, but it's pretty cool. And she has a trash retrieval for swap or adjustment of a gig. I like that swap in there because we don't know what that means because they haven't shown us something yet that swaps a gig.
Yeah.
Her other ability means she's still useful even if the opponent isn't doing gig manipulation on you. So she's no longer just a maybe I'll put this in my sideboard.
I mean, a 4/7 blocker is nothing to sneeze at, especially with as many go solo legends as we've seen, almost all of which without gear equipped, she kills.
And if your opponent happens to not be playing any go solo legends, she's still got that trash ability because something's going to happen to your gigs at some point. And even if not, she's still a 4/5 body with blocker. So she's a solid card now. The next card is Carry Uridine. They got rid of the max value requirement and changed it to an 8+ gig, and his strength increased by 2, and they changed his ram cost from 2 to 1. So he was already a really good card, but that max gig requirement was pretty restrictive. And basically he was like, you're going to get to use him once, and then they kill him because he's only 3 strength. Now he's an excellent card.
It also gives him utility because 4/5 is significantly better than 4/3. If you don't have a gig at max value, or you don't have a gig at 8+ with the new ability, now you can still find times where you're going to be able to attack with him and get value. Instead of playing him for 4, not having something at max before, or even if they had done the change to having it at 8+, crap, I rolled a 7 on my D12.
Right.
Now he's just sitting there doing nothing. Well, fine, I can still attack with him if I need to.
I think he's now excellent rather than just very good.
Agreed.
And I think it's interesting that they reduced his RAM cost from 2 to 1. I didn't talk about this when we were doing either of our legend things, but I had thought about it. When we were talking then about how they might handle odd numbers, we were talking about how they might have 1s or 3s, but they'd have to put some kind of limit like 7 in order to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I now think what they're going to do is dual color legends that are 1 each, like a red-yellow that's 1/1.
Sure.
That would solve that problem and make these minor changes to odd numbers or back to or up to even numbers make more sense. So that's my speculation now, is that we're going to have dual color legends sooner rather than later. Maybe not in set 1.
Sure. We're running out of slots for legends.
Well, we've got a whole bunch that haven't been revealed.
Right.
And I think they show colors on them, but they
may not.
We've seen them change a bunch of cards just this week, so who knows? But anyway, Hanako changed significantly. She went from a 3/0 to a 4/1, so I won't be the only person ever to kill a rival unit with Hanako now. She has a strength base, and instead of just taking cards with a cost that matches 1 friendly gig, you now get all of them that match any of your gigs, but the rest are bottom deck, not trash, so she no longer exceeds recursion, which seems to be a good balance to me.
Yeah, I would much rather just be able to to grab 2 or 3 cards off the draw,
You
then
get 4 now without that
Sure.
much difficulty.
but then hoping that you have something you're choosing between 1 or 2 cards, and you'd really like both for the card that you spent 3 or 4 on.
Right.
That has no attacking utility, except against me.
Except against you. All right, so Caliber is next. I'm going to tell you, I have wrestled a lot with this card because in its original version, I don't like it. It's a nice solid body at a 5/6, but with its ability being entirely dependent, as we talked about before, on your opponent. Caliber is even worse for that than Street Kid V was, because your opponent could just play his cards out of his hand and then attack him with no cards left or just one that he doesn't care to lose. I like the idea that's still here. I'm going to put you in a difficult situation. You either discard a really good card to avoid discarding 2, or you discard 2.
Yes, I think that is an improvement. It does have a minor strength reduction from 6 to 5.
Well, they didn't change that ability. It's still the same, but they made him better by giving him the playability to defeat a unit of cost 2 or less.
Right, but it also went from a 6 to 5 strength. So
It did.
the strength reduced, which I think does matter when it's a defeat ability. So it's not a huge difference, but if the ability procs on defeat, you want it to die. You still want it to be able to take something out potentially. But, I mean, it's a 5 cost removal that can attack and has an ability when it's defeated. So it has use in all 3 phases, basically. I mean, it can remove an early blocker immediately when
He
it's
drops
played.
on the table and gets rid of a blocker, or an Evelyn Parker.
Yeah, I think I'm in the opposite camp of you. I think this is a great card.
It's much better. I had a really hard time finding any way I'd want to put it in a deck in the old version. I like it now.
Okay.
I don't love it, but I like it a lot better. It's much easier for me to splash this card now than it was before, when I was basically, if I built a yellow deck, I put it in there because I needed to fill it out, not because I liked having
Well,
it.
it's also a lot easier to splash because the RAM cost was cut in half from 4 to 2.
That's right. And it is now a splashable card.
Speaking of splashing,
Adam Smasher, Adam Splasher. This art is marvelous. It really is. They raised his RAM cost to 6, but otherwise he's exactly the same. Cree made a tease about some other form of getting him into play. I have a suspicion about what that might be, which I will talk about when we get to my Dexter.
okay, not much to talk about there. A minor change.
All right, Gorilla Arms. It was +4 and 4 RAM. Now it's +3 and 3 RAM. It was steal a gig with matching number of sides to the gig stolen. Now it wants a value not shared by any friendly gig, which is much easier to achieve.
And again, fits the new
Really
color
smart.
wheel where you want a difference between you and your
And
opponent.
again, I look at something like this and I say, all right, a lot of these changes are driven by the templating of the color wheel. It's a lot simpler. It's a little more splashable at 3 RAM. I mean, eventually, maybe. Not now. But if they're going to do something where they have odd numbers or duels, then it becomes a little more splashable. And can't really complain too much about the drop to 3 power for 4 cost.
No, there are
So many things went to 10 with this.
A lot of these games are about breakpoints, and especially in a game where you can double your progress toward a win condition as soon as you hit 10.
Yeah.
Having overpowered upgrades can feel good when you're just like, oh, great, this unit's now a 12. But I think they need to rein it in a little bit, especially if they've got play abilities and steal ability.
Yeah, this can still turn Corpo V into a 10,
Mhm.
but not every single 6 one. I like the change. I think it's a solid card. The next one is After Party at Lizzie's. It was 2 cost, 2 RAM, and adjust a rival gig by up to ±2. Then if a friendly gig at the same value, draw a card, which is totally not yellow anymore. So now it's 1 cost, 1 RAM, and adjust a gig, which is any gig on the table, by up to 1, then draws 1 if you have 2 or more gigs with different values, which is a good deal more flexible and fits the new yellow perfectly. Seems fine to me, and
Yep.
I like 1 drops. Not much else to say about that one, so we'll move on to Cyberpsychosis. It was a 2 cost, 3 RAM. Now it's a 3 cost, 2 RAM. It's still only playable on an equipped unit. It gives +3 per gear on that unit instead of +2, but they simplified the mechanism for playing it with quick keyword, which hopefully we'll still be able to do on our own attacks. But now it only defeats the unit if it steals or fights, which is good because you might have a turn where you play like a Delamain or something and you've still got 3 and you can't really do anything else, and you could play it on that unit while it has lag and make use of your eddies. You
Right.
don't have something else to do.
Yeah.
with them. I like that.
No, I mean, I think you covered it right there. Just that added flexibility of not having to sit and wait and waste eddies in a game that has
8 turns, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Use your eddies while you have them. It telegraphs the threat a little bit, but it also allows you to get something in play when you need it.
Yeah. Flexibility is
And
good.
you can drop it on a blocker before your opponent's turn.
Maybe loses a little bit of thematic synergy because you're not going crazy in the middle of a fight, but you
But you eventually will.
eventually will. Next is Riding Nomad. It was a 6/6/3 RAM. Now it's a 5/4/4 RAM. And basically they just changed it to incorporate the new adrenaline keyword. That also changes that now the card can attack the gig area, not just spent units, which is how it was worded before.
Yeah, which is a big difference and probably the reason why it went from a 6/6 to a 5/4. It now, if it can attack the gig area immediately, you don't want to have a situation where you can, especially in the same color as PANAM,
Yeah.
put it in play, give it an upgrade that gets it to 10. There's really no interactivity window then to stop your opponent from just playing something and stealing 2 gigs. attacks immediately,
Yeah.
going from 0 to 10.
Yeah, this is one of those cards that's easy to overlook, but it's actually very, very solid. And so it having a 4 RAM cost is reasonable. The last changed card that we saw this week is Placide, who they just slightly reworded his ability, and then they changed the color of his keyword. Everything else is the same.
Yeah, they made it so that the keywords are now yellow and green instead of green and red, just to match everything else.
Then we got a new card, Wraith Marauders. We had just seen the art for it on socials like the day before. It's a 5/4 2 RAM card that readies a unit equal to the power of a gig it steals.
And it has to be another unit, not itself.
Right. Again, solid, useful card.
Well, yeah, not just solid. If you've got a 10 strength unit, you attack with that unit, you steal 2 gigs. Or they use a blocker, you defeat the blocker, but you weren't able to steal a gig. Then you attack with Wraith Marauders, their blocker's now dead. You steal a gig because it's 4 strength. You ready the 10 strength.
If you have a 10.
If you have a 10, or whatever it is. But if they're using a
There's
blocker...
a certain self-limiting in there.
Sure, but
especially if you're playing blue.
But all this takes is having 1 unit in play and Wraith Marauders on board, and you're effectively able to attack 3 times, and twice with the big unit that you're hoping to do damage with. It means that your opponent has to have 2 blockers in play, or a blocker and some response card like a Cyber Psychosis to stop you from being able to steal multiple gigs.
So an ability not unlike PANAM's with us. So I think we're going to be seeing more of this stand shit back up in green.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the new card they revealed on socials only, not in episode 11, is Modded Kusanagi. If I remember correctly from the game, that's a relatively difficult fight to get. That's one of the best in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to go through a whole rigmarole to buy it, but I've never done it, so I don't remember exactly what it is. This is a 6/8 2 RAM blue card. It has Adrenaline, and at the end of your turn, you return to its owner's hand. I see in other games there's shenanigans you can do with like blanking cards to neuter effects like this, but man, paying 6 every turn for this card is a lot.
Well, it is, and it also is limited by the fact that if you play an upgrade on it, the upgrade is going to get discarded when it
goes back to your hand. Everything.
The upgrade goes back to your hand.
Whatever happens to the card, it goes with the card.
Okay. So let's say you have a 2-cost upgrade or something, or 1-cost upgrade that gives it +2. You can effectively attack every turn for 7 or 8 to steal 2 gigs, and your opponent can't interact with it or remove it on their turn.
Right. That's its value.
Right.
If you slap something on it with PANAM, you can use it twice. Probably worth 6.
Or with the Wraith Marauders, you attack with it twice, it goes back in your hand, and
they're both 2 RAM. You could do that, and PANAM could supply the 2 green RAM, and then we're really cooking with gas.
There we go. Now we just need to find how many other cards for a deck. We've got the rest of the deck built.
I think we've got the core of the deck built.
So overall takeaway, though, on the changes, just very quickly. Personally, I think they're great. There are a couple minor things that mostly thematic reasons. It's like, oh man, I wish they hadn't taken that thing away, but I don't see a whole lot here that mechanically isn't for the better.
No, every card I think has been improved, except I actually don't like the change to El Sombrero.
Right, yeah.
Not because it's a Timmy card, and not because of the thematic. Because it's a Timmy card. Yeah. I don't like Timmy cards, because I'm not a Timmy player. But you know what? They have to make cards for Timmy players, or they won't attract Timmy players.
And then you see the Timmy player coming in, and you're
going to see 3 copies of El Sombrero, and he's going to be doing everything in his power to get up to 44, even though he can't do that until turn 6.
He'll win 2 out of every 8 games he plays, but one of them will be against you. And
no offense if you're a Timmy player.
Some offense if you're a Timmy player.
Some offense if you're a Timmy player. But we're not Timmy players, so we have a certain amount of disdain we can't hide for Timmy players. Yeah, I'm really happy with the changes. Let's go on to... I'm going to do my Padre, and then we'll both do our Dexters.
Okay.
Because you will remember that Andy did a Padre last time, and I had not done so. So I have the benefit of seeing everything up to episode 11. So my Padre Man of the Cloth is call, adjust 1 or more friendly gigs by a total of no more than 2. Then flip 1 legend face up or face down for each value pair you have.
I'm just trying to process that.
You have 2 total points you can use to move friendly gigs. So maybe making 2 value pairs instead of just 1, but they'd have to be close. And then, you know me, I want to be able to flip my legends. But this doesn't restrict to my own. I could flip your legend, but I have to have value pairs. And it's unlikely at the time you're going to be calling him that you're going to have like 4 value pairs. Of course, you can flip him with himself.
I'll bite my tongue. I think it's a cool concept. I just get concerned when you start messing with other people's legends and flipping them down.
$1 now, and I might not want
No, but I think you're forgetting something, which is that you can equip gear onto legends. So if you're flipping it, they're losing the gear. For 1 Eddie, you're completely disrupting an entire play style of equipping upgrades onto your opponent's legends.
You know, if they were to print a card like this, I think that could be easily resolved by saying a legend that's flipped face down doesn't lose its gear. Because it's not in play.
Or like flip an unequipped
And I would also require that you restrict it so you can't flip a Go Solo that's put on the field. It would have to be one in the legendary. But it needs some workshopping. But
Yeah. I think like the concept of flipping, especially if it's your own and putting them down. But yeah.
And we could certainly restrict it to your own.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can flip himself means you can do a lot of gig manipulation. But I think in order for it to really be valuable, you have to do as many as possible because otherwise you're only going to have one or two to flip.
Yeah, and with the reduced cost to flip Legends, you're not getting as much. Although, if you were able to do it on the turn that he came out, then you would be able to get 2 Legends in the same turn, which has its own value, or even 3 if he's the first one that you flip. So it still has some good value, even if you're not flipping your opponents, or with call abilities, flipping your own stuff down so that you can then reuse the call. Yeah, so I think it's good enough on its own without potentially doing your opponent's stuff, because you're building around it, right? You're building with call abilities.
Flips,
it's like, I got this, I got the call, I'll flip it back, I'll do it again.
Do Victor 3 times in a game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
All right, so what's your Dexter?
My Dexter is very boring, but it matches the red part of the color wheel that wants to have supremacy on the board, that wants to have stronger stuff, that wants to defeat your opponents. And I just have him as an ability that says the first time each turn you defeat a rival unit, draw a card. So it's giving you some benefit for having board control and going into your opponents rather than try to steal gigs.
All right. Well, I made 2 versions of Dexter. The one that I know they will never print is my alt version. I'll read it first.
Okay.
Flip, spend a rival unit of power 4 or less. Both versions lean into the big number.
Mm-hmm.
This one also has a spend, because remember, he's a gas bag who only gets you in trouble and then shot in the head. Spend, defeat this legend to play a unit of power 5 or less from your trash for free.
That's the one you think they'd never print? Or that's
never print.
Okay, you're right, yeah. Thematic, but also spending 1 to then...
What is he gets shot in the head to rescue
bring
B back to life.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, but spending 1, but then you're getting...
you lose your legend for the rest of the game.
Who cares? You just made 4 eddies and got a unit back. And it's Dexter, so him dying didn't hurt your feelings anyway.
Right. The other thing I thought about and I referred to earlier is you could also use this to put into play instead of play, which gets around play effects.
Sure.
So I think that's one of the ways that in the design space that you can eliminate abuse. Is if you make this put into play, then you can't take something that has a like Placide or Atom Smasher.
Right.
You cheat Atom Smasher into the discard pile and then
so
play him.
Yeah, so you're not getting play effects,
Right.
You're getting sure.
So that would be broken. The one that I think that is within reason is if you have more street cred than your rival, spend to refresh 2 eddies for each 8+ friendly gig. If you have more street cred than your rival, spend a rival of power 4 or less. 2 optional abilities. So spend 1 eddy to get 1 back for each 8+ gig, which feeds right into the power thing. Or if you don't have that or you don't want to, spend a low power unit on your opponent's side because you have more street cred.
Yeah, seems pretty good.
Any comments on everything today?
No, I mean, I'm excited to see more cards come out.
I think we're going to see the rest of the alpha deck next week.
Yeah, and it's time to do that. They've got convention season coming up. I know they were at UK Games Expo, but they're going to be at Gen Con. I think they're going to be at Origins.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one, but they talked about demo deck, so they're going to have to show this stuff because people are going to see it one way or the other anyway. But then
I think they'll probably put new demo decks up once they do episode 12. And show us the rest
seeing new cards and not just change. These are effectively new cards for a lot of these because they're changed so much, but now let's see more of the card pool. We've seen 34. Let's get closer to that 144 cards for the set.
I don't mind if they just give us a couple new a week, because I'd still like there to be things to discover.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I don't need to see every card. Let's see a couple, even if it's here's 2 or 3 new cards a week. For a while, then that's totally fine. Just slow drip it. We don't need to see everything and know everything before we open a pack. Otherwise, there are no surprises other than I got the massive legendary card.
All right, let's go on to the afterlife. What do you got a recommendation for this week?
I did a board game last time. I'm going to do a board game or card game this time. And it is a game that we have played a lot, actually, which is Compile.
Very Cyberpunk.
To say that the theme is pasted onto the game is an insult to paste. It is a 3-lane battler where you are playing as rival AIs. Effectively, what that means is there are little mini decks of 6 cards that have a theme, love, hate, plague, war, whatever that is. You're going to snake draft 3 of them, and then you're going to mash those 3 decks of 6 cards together. They all have numbers between 0 and 6, and they have abilities on them. You're going to make your 18-card deck, and then you're going to try to get to 10 in each of the 3 lanes before your opponent can, and then the first person to compile all 3 of their protocols, those mini decks, is going to win. But there's a lot of interactivity. There's a lot of...
It's very tug of war.
Yeah, exactly. And timing is great for good and bad. You might want to do something something, it would be great, but you realize, oh my god, if I do that, then I'm going to be wide open next turn. So you might even slow yourself down a little bit to try to not have a window where you're going to be killed the next turn. So a lot of fun.
Remember 2-3 Gen Cons ago, they had the walkway from the Westin into the ICC covered in a wrap for this game that we never heard of.
Yeah, driving in.
Driving in, we're like,
what is this game that is up here that nobody is even looking at? Like, nobody's heard of it. Why is this the wrap?
I didn't remember seeing it on the Board Game Geek preview, and we were making fun of them because it turned out it was like this little $25 card game. And we played it.
Yeah, we played a demo there, and by the end of the first turn, we cut the demo short and just walked over and said, give me the base game, give me the expansion, give me the playmat.
Let's go. We bought everything they had. Yeah. And then we've continued to do that since. Yeah. Because we really like it.
So I'm okay if you piggyback on my recommendation, or do you have one of your own?
I'm actually going to recommend a YouTube video.
Okay, I was going to say, if you said compile 2, I would have given you grief, but also that would have been funny.
So a while back, I found this YouTube video. It's the perfect Venn diagram of I'm a card game geek, and I like weird little nerdy math things. So this guy, his channel's called Stand Up Maths, and the video is called, I'll link it so you'll find it here, it's called How to Break Magic the Gathering. So the rules in Magic the Gathering that apply here are that only integers can be used to count things. You can't use fractions, only whole numbers. If anything would create an infinite loop that cannot be stopped, the game is immediately a draw. And if you cannot calculate a number, it's 0. Those are the 3 rules that apply. He found a 3-card combo that, if you play them in the correct order, makes a definitive number that is so large that by the 3rd cycle, there aren't enough atoms in the known universe to write the number down. And then it continues cycling until it gets to a 30-tall power tower of exponents.
I can't even die. This is both the nerdiest thing that we've ever talked about on this podcast, which is saying something, and the most Dodd thing that I've ever heard.
It is awesome. And it's just 3 little cards that make dragon tokens. So my recommendation, go to Stand Up Maths. The link will be in the description of our card if YouTube will let me put up a card to another channel, and find How to Break Magic the Gathering.
I'll check it out. I have not seen that.
It's awesome. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for hanging out with us, James.
Thanks, everybody.